Yes, I am.
First single out of the box all the way back in 1989 for Clint Black, and I have been so excited he is in the studio with us. You know, you and I had a chance to sit down last year, and you got a chance to ask me a lot of questions, but I don't know if you know this, but you were one of the main reasons that I came to Nashville. The things that happened musically in 1989 changed my life, and you were a big part of that.
Hey, thanks.
So
man.
I'm glad you're here, man.
Well, I'm proud
Yeah.
to have
Yes.
gotten you, helped to get you here.
Well, you know, see, Patrick and I have to test things all the
Yes.
time, so he's getting started on a little bit more.
Glasses are
Yes.
clinking.
They're clinking. You
Can
know,
we interest you in
a libation.
single-barrel Colorado whiskey?
You know what? I'm already got some in my coffee.
Okay, well, we'll just put that right there just in case you change your mind. That's how that works.
My spirit in spirit.
You know,
Yeah.
some of the, I mean, not only your voice, musicianship, but your songwriting, man. The way that you put words together and the things that you wrote always really impressed me early on. That first record was so well crafted. I mean, and you know, as I learned about James Stroud, and James Stroud was really instrumental in getting your sound off the ground too, like he was mine in the early days. But man, your songwriting. I mean, when did you write your first song? When did all that stuff start? How did you develop?
Well, I wrote my first song when I was 15, and that's in the garbage where it belongs.
I understand. Yeah.
But the next song I wrote, I sat on for years. I mean, I didn't really intend to record it. I wrote it with Willie Nelson and Kenny Rogers in mind. I was kind of thinking of them.
Yeah.
It was Loving Blind, and I wrote that when I was 18. And then I wrote State of Mind that same year. And Loving Blind went on my second album. The record company insisted it was a single, so it became a hit. And State of Mind I cut twice for my fourth album. I cut it, and it just wasn't there. And so we were recording the next day, and I said, you know, that let's throw that away and start again. But you know, 4 albums into my career, a song I wrote when I was 18, you know, gets recorded and becomes a number one for me. I never really crafted songs. They just poured out. They spilled out. And I envied, you know, a buddy of mine, Shake Russell, who seems so prolific. He's just able to keep cranking out songs. And when I got my deal, when I came to Nashville and met Stroud, and met with RCA, I knew, because I'd seen a Reba interview where she said I have to listen to about 1,000 songs to find 10 for an album, and I thought, man, that sounds hard. I've got to get writing. When I got that deal, I said I've got to start really writing. And that's when I really made a craft of it and wrote A Better Man.
Were you doing the musical structure too? I mean, how far were you along as a guitar player and as a musician when you're writing those melodies?
You know, not where I am today, but I had been studying James Taylor, so I knew all the you know, augmented chords, the G, a G9, you know, a D7, D9. You know, I could do the substitute chords, and you know, with a 6 and, you know, major 7s and all of that stuff. So I knew a bunch of those chords, but I was just kind of falling into it, you know.
Yeah, but you know, but you always, to me, your writing's different than everybody else's because of the way, for me, as a songwriter, when you can close your eyes and you can visualize that picture, man, it all seems to just line up for me. And the way that you phrase things and the way that you painted those pictures was always very unique. Unlike, you know, a little bit more like maybe a Christopherson or some of those guys. Wow. I mean, I really always liked that a lot about you. And I watched it progressed over the years with your songwriting as well. So I've been a big fan of it a long time.
You know, I don't see it the way you see it because it's me always trying to get better at it, and so, but I'll tell you what I think, if I can be given that credit, it's because of the Haggards and Willie, the Henley and Fry, you know, Croce and Fogelberg, you know, Buffett, James Taylor, Steely Dan, Bob Seger, Leonard Skinner. You know, these were the poets. You know, those were my James Joyces, you know. And so that's the standard I wanted to live up to. So whenever I wrote, it was, what would Haggard say? What would Henley say? And, is it up there where those guys are? And so, I never thought of myself as a picture maker,
And
but a poet.
yeah, but that really poetic structure was a whole lot of it. That was one of the things I appreciated about the way you wrote. But I mean, coming into Nashville, and for me, when I got here, I thought I knew how to write a song. Then I met Paul Nelson and Hank Cochran, and then I got to write with some guys that really knew how to write, and I realized I didn't know anything. I didn't realize how green, because I thought I understood structure because I'd listened to it. I was so knowledgeable of the format and the country artists, not just of what was current, but the older guys and everybody that had come before. I was so passionate about it that I really studied the way things were put together. And I could tell you that did that a lot too, not only in country, but there was a lot of that pop influence, like the James Taylor stuff as well.
Yeah, James really used a lot of jazz, but he did it in a way that didn't make it feel like he was outside the box.
Yeah.
So, he said, he was writing songs back during the big folk scare of the 60s, And so I think he probably was in that vein, but bringing in all that other stuff. So, but then, I mean, there was some of it, your smiling face and, songs like that felt poppy.
Yeah, but also, we all had that straight influence too. And I know being from Texas, you had a lot of that stuff too. But it wasn't that straight Texas sound. It was different. It had its own thing to it. Was it a lot of that James, the way that he put the records together and the way that he structured the tracks? I mean, did you have a lot of input early on?
Well, early on, we really just reproduced the demos.
Gotcha.
He came down and heard my band. I put a band together to showcase for RCA. It was the band that I'd been using to make the demos. So Hayden and I met. He had an 8-track. We started. He knew a drummer, Dick Gay, and we started programming drum tracks. And so I'm basically charting that stuff out with Dick, and then Hayden put the bass part on. I put the acoustic part on. Most of it. Hayden would do some and do some electric, and then Hayden and I would stack the background vocals. We found a steel guitar player for $100 in a 6-pack. He'd come do some tracks, and found a fiddle player, and he came over and did the demos, and that was my showcase band, and I wanted to use them on the album because we loved the demos. And so Stroud came down and heard us. I was sick as a dog. I was running off the stage every 3 songs to go throw up in the bathroom and finally
nerves or other
no,
things?
I had the flu.
Gotcha.
And so after about 3 trips to the bathroom, Stroud came in and he goes, hey, let's call the game. I've seen enough. Your guys can do the job. And so I the owner let me off, and the band just played without me that night. And so we took that band into the studio. It was augmented with Pig Robbins on, piano, and I think, we had a few other guitar players that I put a couple of things on, and some background vocalists came in and did some of it. But mostly it was me and Hayden doing background. Stroud did background on Nothing's New.
Really?
No, on Winding Down, Stroud did backup.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the 3 of us, he and Hayden and I, are standing in a circle. And Stroud would be doing his little conductor finger, and I'll never forget the look of him over to the right, going, "Everybody knows."
That's
on that
awesome.
Winding Down. So it was pretty much a reproduction of the demos we made in Hayden's garage, only better, of course. And so we got to the second album. That came together a lot more quickly. We still had some demos to chart from. And when we got to the third album, Stroud said, you need to be co-producer. And from that point on, he left me to do all the overdubs. We'd do the tracking together, and then I would produce all the overdub sessions, and then, Lynn Petersell would mix it, and Stroud and I would sit there and make our changes. And I learned at his elbow, and he just kind of took me up. And I mean, from that point, we go on, and eventually we have some orchestra, some symphonic stuff added to the records, and some choir here and there. So I was able to kind of get some training from that.
Yeah.
And think I knew how to do it.
We're in the studio with Clint Black. We're Honky Tonkin. We'll be right back with more after this. We are Honky Tonkin in the studio with Clint Black, kind of learning about music and the progress along the way. How do you feel about the state of country music now? I mean, music has definitely changed a lot. It's evolved a lot in the last 10 years.
And it always has. And I remember how worried my dad was about it, when Alabama came along.
Oh, my
That's not
goodness.
country. Yeah. But he grew to love them. And I remember we'd have some pretty deep talks about it. And, I would go, okay, let's go back to Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family, and then, race on up to Bob Wills and his, Texas swing band.
Oh, and then when Haggard put drums in the band.
Well, Haggard and the Bakersfield sound was not country to a lot of people, and then it became the very definition of traditional country. And then you get into your string-laden, lots of voices, the orchestral Owen Bradley and Chet Atkins records, that they produced, and then your Ronnie Millsap era, the late '70s, and then the '80s, and then the resurgence with Skaggs and Reba and Strait and Randy Travis and all that, and so I kind of look at that as, it's always going to evolve, but it seems to return to its roots. And I think that's what's happening now with guys like Luke Combs and Chris Jansen. And, there's a slew of them out there, Morgan Wallen. These guys are real country.
They really are. And it seems Jenks. Like the songwriting is evolving back around too, where it's getting a little bit more traditional again. The really good hook lines and the crafty lyrics.
That's what I was worried about the most, because the lyrics has always been the primary attraction in country music. Was
Absolutely,
the common man's poetry, and my dad always said, it has to be able to be understood by a third grader, and I always thought, yeah, that's true, but there has to be layers, that you can discover and go, 5 years later, oh man, I never thought of that, but since this happened with, Uncle Bob, it makes me think of it differently now. So you have all of this depth in the song, but you don't have to go deep or be a professor to understand it.
I think our country audience is a little bit savvier now as far as lyrics go. I think they like the depth to it. I think they've evolved a lot, but they're exposed to a whole lot more. They're getting it from so many different directions. It seems like it's really changed a lot. There's a lot of it that I like, a lot of it I don't really understand. Some of it kind of bores me. But I really think that it's all starting to line back up. I think people are really starting to get passionate. And you're touring again and out on the road. I'm seeing a lot of young people gravitate back to our music from the early '90s and everything. It seems like we're having a huge resurgence right now. You feeling that out on the road too?
I am, and I usually take for granted that my audience is my age, but country audiences always have been, from the time you're born until you die, and we always kept them. And for a while there, it was really leaving some of them disenfranchised, and I know this just how they feel because of what I read on my Facebook page, and you get a lot more feedback from the fans, and if everything you hear on the radio is about the party crowd, then eventually you go, okay, well, the appetizer was good, but where's the entree? I need He Stopped Loving Her Today, or Are the Good Times Really Over for Good? I need that type of stuff. Or, if you will, No Time to Kill, which is a song of mine that's very wordy, and there's a lot of, philosophy built into that song. And it's meant to be something you want to think about, that it's not just a ditty, which I've got plenty of ditties.
Yeah.
And I think that we're starting to see more of the meat back on the bone now. And as that happens, and, I'll hear some of these younger artists mention me, which is always thrilling, to hear that somebody coming up and singing to the new generations, was into my music. and the way that I would point to, the people I listen to, Haggard and Willie and Waylon and all of that, when they point to us, then some of the kids are gonna go, who? And maybe they'll check it out, and maybe they'll go, oh, I see where they're coming from. I see it's like the history. What was America founded on, and how did it become America?
Do you find that when they discover something like a person grew up on your music and they were in their young 20s, and then they had a family, that these young kids are starting to discover your music again now, but when they find maybe one song that they like, they kind of dive through your entire catalog, and it's fascinating to me to see those young kids out there singing maybe even a B-side that I play from time to time. I mean, are you noticing all that stuff too?
Yeah, I see it through my daughter, who has young friends, of course, and she'll somehow, some song title will come up, and she'll say, well, I know that one, and I'll think, do you really know that one? One of my album cuts. And she knows it, and she'll mention that a friend of hers really likes that song, and that's odd. It's great, but it's that thing you're talking about, where if they discover Killing Time and really like it, then maybe they end up at Winding Down or Live and Learn, and that's. I mean, we didn't just listen to the singles; we had albums.
I miss that too.
Yeah.
I miss buying anticipation of a record from an artist that I really look forward to, and listening to the way they put the record together from top to bottom. I miss that.
Well,
terribly.
that's part of the art. It's if you're going to the gallery to see the work of a painter, you're going to look around at the totality of it and go, okay, I don't like that one as much as this one and this one and this one. But after time, what happens to me with albums is I'll wear out all the ones I liked right off the bat, and then I'll have nothing left but the one I just kind of liked, and then I'll listen to that a bunch. And a perfect example is The Who. It may have been The Who or just Pete Townshend's solo song, but Eminent Front. When that first came out, and then after a while, it sort of grew on me, and then I really loved that song. And that's over on the rock side, kids, in case you don't know The Who. But that's always what happens with me, is I'll live with an album until I eventually wear everything out on it.
Were you a good student when you were a kid?
Terrible.
But you seem like you have a philosophical mind, a pondering mind, where you like to evaluate people and situations.
Yeah.
That I find a lot of that in your lyric.
Yeah, that's. I think that's born out of studying other people's lyrics and trying to understand and finding all the different meaning in it. And then I had an interest in psychology. I used to read psychology books. And
Plato, Socrates.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there were things I took an interest in, and eventually I took an interest in history, but human behavior, why we are the way we are, huge interest in that, and I became a big fan of communication and the whole idea of love and what that is. The idea for something that we do that I wrote with Skip Ewing came from a book called I think it was The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People.
Wow.
And the author was talking about how much better our relationships would be if we treated love as a verb instead of a noun. And when I hear something like that, I think I've never heard that before. I just sort of stuck in my head. And then when Skip and I were getting ready to write, I came up with an idea to go into the session with, and it was love isn't something that we have; it's something that we do. Noun, verb, and so all of that reading, all of that. Insight into human behavior. That's how I'm able to go in and feel things and just have a different look at something.
I think we have a different perspective as we're older too. I mean, as you live life and you have more things. I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. and I'm sure you're probably familiar.
Yeah,
with
he's
as well.
brilliant, and
Brilliant.
and when he starts talking about human behavior, you know, I listen. You know, he's got a bunch of stats. He's a statistician
Oh,
as
my
much
gosh,
as a
man.
psychologist. You know, there's a Dennis Prager book called "Happiness is a Serious Problem," and he talks about happiness in a way that I'd never heard anyone talk about it before. So that became this sort of new way of looking at things, and you know, a lot of this stuff is philosophical.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't study, you know, Socrates and, you know, all of those guys, you know, going way back. So I'm getting it from the people who did.
We are in the studio with Clint Black. Here's Killing Time. We're Honky Tonkin in the studio with Clint Black. Just a little short conversation on this particular song, because this song to me, it was there. I mean, that whole 1989 era when Travis Tritt came out and you came out and Garth came out and Allen and Chestnut and all that. Killing Time was massive, life-changing record, dude.
For me.
Oh my gosh! I mean, what do you remember that feeling when that record hit the radio, man?
I remember that feeling when I mean, it goes all the way back to Hayden and me. We're driving to a gig, $50, you know, just the deal
Setting
is
up your
done.
own PA.
Yeah, the deal is done with RCA. We've recorded a lot of the songs, but we're still playing for $50 a night. That went on for 2 years until the album came out. But we hadn't finished the album, and we're talking about how slowly the big wheel turns. And I said, I just hope it starts turning soon, because this Killing Time is killing me. Now, that was an emotional expression. But we looked at each other and knew that is a hook. And it took us a long time to finish it. We wrote it pretty quickly, but we didn't have the ending line. But we finally finished it, and I knew this is a country song that anyone like me is going to like. You know, you don't want to go as far as to say that's a hit, although you're thinking it. You know?
feel it, though.
Well, and to talk about the songs that you...
Who are you? What are you doing over there all of a sudden?
He just came out of
I'm
nowhere.
Patrick. I'm also part of the show, but I usually let y'all just talk. But no,
I
I was
haven't
going to
seen
say...
you since you served us our
Since I served you
drinks.
whiskey. I will say that opening line, like, I don't want to
I hear
overstate
that
it,
a lot.
but that
That's-
opening line is just so good. It's
That's
the
so
countryest
funny
thing.
to me. I don't think of that the way other people think of it. You were the first thing that I thought of when I thought I drank you off my mind.
How do you
know,
not see
just-
that?
I
It's
know.
brilliant.
No, I like it. I just didn't think it was that meaty, you know. And
Well, I didn't
love
either
that.
when I was 11 years old, but I do now.
I like that it means that, you know, to you and to other people who say that opening line, because the opening line is critical. And we thought we
absolutely.
had the critical opening line, but I didn't think people would be coming up to me saying, "Man, that opening line."
You ever get tired of playing it?
No,
Amen, brother.
no. In fact, I've been having trouble singing it because it's got, you know, the second half of the chorus. It gets right up into what we call my break. That's where you start to, you know, pull chest when you should be going into your head voice.
We're maturing.
Yes, like wine. And I finally figured out what I was doing is I had my voice up too loud in the mix, and so I was biting down and trying not to be so loud. And we just turned my vocal down in my mix and solved that. And so now it feels good again to sing those high parts where I'm not blasting my ears. But it's funny, as much as I focus on sound, I had gotten out of whack with it to the point that it wasn't comfortable to sing, you know, one of my biggest hits.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you can't be there.
Yeah. Shout out to all our friends at Pickle Jar. You know, if you are a band or you're out there touring, working, you love music, just whatever, go to picklejar.com. Patrick will tell you all about it because he is the man with the words.
Yeah, you can get the app straight up. You can just go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store and go look for Pickle Jar Live. And if you are a fan of music, you want to find out what's going on, you want to get exclusive pictures and videos and everything from backstage, you need the Pickle Jar app. And of course, if you're an artist, Clint, I don't know if you know this, but when you were
I know
touring,
it. I'm an artist.
yeah. When you
I've
were
been
coming
told,
up,
so I
didn't
have
you
to-
have like a bucket or a pickle jar or something that people could tip you
Yeah.
when you played in the bars? Well,
Yep.
now nobody has cash. So Pickle Jar has come up with this app so people can tip their artist or the band that they're watching on the Pickle Jar app, and it doesn't cost the band nothing. They don't they everything that you tip goes straight to them.
Brilliant.
So it's a
Brilliant.
really cool way to stay connected to live music. Just go to picklejar.com.
There you go. Put yourself in my shoes. It's Clint Black in studio with us right now. We are Honky Tonkin.
Did you play that harmonica on the track?
Yep.
Wow. I thought for sure that I knew you played it in concert, but I would have thought for sure you had somebody come in and play that. It's really well
No,
done.
there's a great story when I was trying to get a solo down for another song on my first record, I'll Be Gone. And I did one pass, and I didn't like that. And let me do another pass, and Mark Wright, who was co-producing that first album, leans on the talkback and says, I can get Charlie McCoy over here. It's like, no, I think I'm going to get this.
So let's change gears. I got a chance to do a movie years ago called Maverick, and it was one of the most terrifying things I'd ever done. I'd never been on a movie set before, and my scene made the cutting floor. I never made it anywhere, but I know you had a major role in that. Was that your first movie experience?
I had a major minor role.
Yeah.
I'd been, when I hit it big, I started getting offers.
Yeah.
And scripts being sent. I told my agents just to stop. I'm not an actor, and no. And I had 1 week off, and I was exhausted. And I told my manager, I said, don't even call me about anything. Don't tell me, because all the offers I was getting were great. So it's hard to turn them down.
Absolutely.
Right? So I just worked myself to death. And so he calls me 2 days into it, and he says, you're going to want to hear this one. And a day later, I was on a plane for Oregon to go up and shoot on the set at Maverick. And I walk on the set, and I'm down at the base camp, and I walk past this trailer with my coffee, and the door's wide open, and I just glance over there, and it's Mel Gibson and Dick Donner. Donner's the director. And I just said, hey, Clint, come in here. So I come in, and they said, we're just doing the shot list for the day. And remind me, we need an established shot for you. And I kind of knew what that was. And so I just sat and watched Mel and Dick talk through all the shots they were going to try to accomplish that day. And then they said they were done. I said, all right, let's go. And I said, oh, you wanted me to remind you of an established. And I have an idea. When he's flirting with, when he comes to get Jody, what's her character's name? I could be standing there just flirting with her when he comes to get her. Great idea, Dick said. All right, we're going to do that. So now it's 6 hours later, and suddenly I'm called into position, and it's at the midway up that big staircase. I've had no training, no acting coach, nothing.
Here, get in there and do it.
Well, even worse, I didn't. No one wrote any lines, and
Really?
I'm looking around going. And they're moving fast. There's 3 cameras down there. There's 150 extras on this boat, and he stands me there and says, "You're going to come down. You're going to pass Mel when he comes up. You're going to go down and start flirting with Jody, and then he'll be grabbing her." And I said, "Okay." And I was about to say, what are my lines? And Dick slaps me on the shoulder and says, "Give me 20 minutes, kid," and disappeared. I'd never seen such a disappearing act. And I'm panicked. And so we ran the scene once, and I came up with some lines, we ran it again, and I came up with some other lines. And then I told Jody, I said, "What if when you say this, I'll say that?" And then you say, and she goes, "That sounds great." I said, "If there's anything you want to tell me about what I'm doing, I could use your." She said, "You're doing fine." That's not what I wanted to hear. I needed a brilliant tip, like you'd say.
James Coburn terrified me.
Yeah,
he was a very intimidating man.
Well, this was frightening, and I imagined that my chin was just rattling off my face in the scene. But a lot of that all that dialogue between us ended up on the floor.
Yeah.
But Donner was kind enough to put it on VHS for me and send it to me. And I didn't know. I had to be told by my wife, Lisa, who's an actress, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Because
usually it goes on the cutting room floor. It gets swept into the trash. And that he took the time to do that for me, it just makes me a little emotional still, because he understood the value of that. And then we're all on the set together with James Coburn and all of that, and man, it was a hoot. It was so much fun. I walked out of there and I told my agent, okay, send me more scripts.
So a high roller, even when the chips are down. What's the name
Yeah,
of the
Good
song?
Run of Bad Luck.
I think we should play that right now.
I think we should.
I think we should. Good Run of Bad Luck, Clint Black from the soundtrack from Maverick. Yeah.
When Hayden and I were writing that, we had the idea for the hook, and I used to play Caesar's Palace, so I called down to the pit bosses there at the blackjack tables. I would go play blackjack at the end of my run at Caesar's.
Yeah.
And I called down and I go, we need some buzzwords, for this song we're writing. And, oh, yeah, what do you need? And I said, well, what do you guys call the high rollers who come in? And he says, high rollers. I said, well, okay. I asked him another question like that, and it was the same thing. High rollers. I said, okay, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help. Appreciate you a lot. In the studio with Clint Black. Man, do you remember when you met one of your very first heroes? I mean, because coming up and being a fan of all that stuff, who was the first?
The very
big
first
celebrity that you
person
met?
I met was Mel Tillis.
No kid. What a sweet, sweet man.
Yeah, I'm going over to the boat, for the RCA radio party. I'm going over for sound check, and the parking lot's empty. I'm walking in, and there comes Mel. And I said hi and introduced myself, and he said, oh, you're that fellow with that better man. And I said, yeah. And he said the first time I heard that on the radio, I thought, Merle sounds good.
God love
That's
it.
a high compliment.
I'm telling you. I committed that one to memory.
Man, when you were a kid, would you have ever dreamed you would have been able to travel and see and meet all the people and the places that you've been? I mean, what did you dream about when you were a kid?
No, you don't dream of that, do you?
Not really. I mean, it's so overwhelming. You
I
never,
wanted to have a crew.
I just wanted to sing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to have somebody else to change my guitar strings. That's the big dream. Get on the radio, be successful, so I can have somebody else carry this stuff around and change my strings for me, because I had to change them. I was doing 4 and 5 hour sets a night, and I'd have to change the songs at least a couple times a night, and so that was the dream. And then you meet Mel, and then you meet George Jones and Merle and Clint Eastwood and all of these guys. And I wrote with Jimmy Buffett and Michael McDonald. Wrote a couple with Haggard. Those are shockingly great. Where you just go, okay. You don't even. It's like I was so careful to not make this too great in my dreams, wearing rose-colored glasses like it was all going to be great. I tried to downplay it, and if I would have been dreaming of all of that, I don't know what kind of an idiot I would have been. Coming into it.
Have you accomplished everything you wanted? Do you think?
Absolutely not.
Not yet.
No.
What's left? What do you got to do? What do you want to do?
I still want to make better sounding records. I'm still. I started about 15 years ago working on playing electric, and I've got a real fast song called "Tuckered Out." And for all these years, I played. It's our barn burner, and I played rhythm guitar. And I could play a little bit of, I played all the electric stuff on the Nothing But the Taillights album, except for 3 songs that Dan Huff did. But I never really felt like, I'm getting there as a guitar player, and I didn't keep pushing until I wanted to do solos on Tuckered Out.
Gotcha.
And so for 2 straight years, I just practiced with a metronome, trying to play around those changes and do. And I got to where I could, and I'm doing it on stage now. But I pick with my thumb and these 3 fingers. And for the last 2 years, I've been trying to completely redo the way I play and use a flat pick and these 2 fingers because it opens up so much more. So I was telling this to my daughter today. If I'd started that 20 years ago, I'd be playing with a flat pick now.
Wow.
And so... I still, Jimmy Olander was on the bus. We played in Mississippi together with Diamond Rio, and Jimmy came over and said, I got to show you this new thing I discovered. So now I have a homework from Jimmy Olander that I've got to try to wrap my head around what he's doing, what he discovered on the guitar. And so I'm doing that. I'm looking on YouTube, Guitar Lesson 365, kids. It starts at how to tune your guitar, and it ends with Eric Johnson and, the craziest stuff you could imagine playing. So that's where I am, is just still trying to get at least well above below average at it.
But you're still pursuing the music, because you hadn't drifted off into something. It's still right down that musical path where you've been on forever.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Clint Black, Winona. There we go.
I want to ask a question about that song, Clint. I was 13 years old, so don't hold it against me. But even at that time, and now going on and for 25 years working in country radio, that song stood out so much. It didn't sound like anything else on the radio at that time. Was that a risk? Was there pushback from the record label that this is too out there? Or would just, at that point you had enough hits that they just kind of let you do what you wanted?
No, that was their pick for the first single, and I didn't get involved in the single picking. But I would have a notebook with ideas in it, and all I had was a bad goodbye, and I was thinking how funny that is. It's tongue in cheek, I can have some fun with that. Mm-hmm. And then I'm sitting in a hotel room in New York City, and Lisa's, we're sitting on the bed, TV's on, but it's muted. Lisa is, looking through a magazine, and I've got my notebook out, and I open it to that page, and I see a bad goodbye, and suddenly I realized there's depth there. And I started writing, didn't even have a guitar on my lap, and I just started writing, and 45 minutes later I had the lyrics for that. And I was going to record it just, for me, and then Y and I had 100 City Tour booked together, and I thought, boy, it'd be great if she could come out on, and sing that with me.
Yeah.
So I cornered her at some CMA Awards and pushed her into a broom closet and said, listen to this. What do you think? And she said, I'm in. And that was that. And we turned it in. It was one of those records that came out before the album, and it sold 170,000 singles before the album came out.
Like that.
And I thought, man, that could have been album sales.
But you sold a lot of copies of that record too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Clint Black, State of Mind. We are Honky Tonkin with our in-studio guests. Man, it's been fascinating
This is
sitting
fun.
and having a good conversation with you. So, how do you escape? What's your outlet, man? I know you like fancy, fast cars. I know you like your sports cars. I mean, you're a sports junkie. What are your outlets?
Yeah, I used to go out. I had a race car. I would go out and drive, take it out to a street track, and I had an instructor, and I would drive. But it got to be too much for my neck, or the G-force.
Yeah.
I've fallen off of horses and motorcycles and skateboards and houses so much that my neck is a wreck.
Yeah.
There's a line. So I had to give that up. I wrecked my lower back. It's better now, but I'm afraid to golf with it, just because of the torquing on that. So really, I'm not that much of a sports junkie anymore. I like to, my wife and daughter and I, we get together, we hang out, we play games and or watch movies. You almost have the cinema at home now.
Yeah.
And I play and I practice and I write and
You're just a music junkie.
yeah, I guess so. And I'm a little bit of a workaholic, and I like to be productive. It's hard for me to detach from all the things I need to get done. And it's not just the work. I've got my coffee business, my TV show, and I'm touring and still writing and playing. But there's the house stuff too. I had to chop down a tree a couple of years ago. That was a big doing, taking down a tree and getting rid of it, and changed out a bunch of lights in the closets, to
Normal stuff, man.
yeah.
I know, man.
But
Yeah.
do you own a bulldozer? Because
I
your friend
want
right there, he's
I
got a
want a
bulldozer.
bulldozer.
I got a bulldozer this
I would,
year.
yes,
Yeah.
I'd like a backhoe, please, if you
Yes.
know anybody.
Yeah, boys with big toys. It's fun to push
Yeah.
dirt around.
Yeah, a ditch witch. Can you get me a ditch witch? Well, Lisa will ask what I want for,
We're hard to buy
for
for.
Christmas or for my birthday, and it's either a Neve microphone preamp or a chainsaw.
Yeah, either one's fine. So I had a chance to do your on the Circle, your TV show, and so how's it going? I know you finished up the first season, and I was I was there when you had Tommy Shaw on the show, so I was kind of overwhelmed because I was a huge
Yeah, and
Styx
he's so
fan.
nice.
Just a sweet, gracious guy.
Yeah.
So how's all that going? Are you taping the second season already?
We are about done taping the third season.
Really?
Yeah,
I've been moving on.
Yeah, so we've rolled the taping of season 2 and 3 into kind of a batch. So it's gone great. Had Joe Bonamassa, Dennis Quaid, John Hyatt, Rodney Crowell, Marty Stewart's done it. I mean, I've had quite the mix. Lisa did the show, and we've got 3 more episodes to tape to be complete for season 3.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I really had a great time, man. That
It's
was
so much fun. It's like what we're doing here. It's a conversation. It's not an interview, right?
It is a conversation. And, I miss, I guess there's more things like this that are starting to happen with podcasts and different things. But I miss the era of Nashville Now and Music City Tonight and all that, where I thought it was great exposure for all of us when we were young and for our format. I miss seeing that on TV. I wish more networks would start carrying that and propping up the young country artists of today. I think that would be great for our industry to see.
Yeah,
that again.
Circle's doing a really good job of that, and they've just had a big infusion of buy-in from, I guess it's Comcast Media or Universal Comcast.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but probably we're going to see that now, Circle on all the channels. So our country lifestyle, all of the music, the talk show, and all of that, eventually and hopefully really soon is going to be ubiquitous. It'll be, if you have a TV, you're going to see it.
That's good. I'd like to see all that stuff happen again. We are Honky Tonkin with Clint Black. I had a chance just the other night to go see the Eagles with Vince. And it's not the first time I saw him. I saw him for the Hell Freezes Over tour back in the 90s, but it was really great to see Vince fill in that role. I thought he did a great job. But you had a part in that record,
Common Thread.
Back in the day. Did a great job on Desperado.
Thanks.
Man. That's not an easy song, man. I mean, to cover a massive hit like that.
Well, I've always wanted to ask, was that your first choice? Did they just assign it to you?
No, I was James and Stroud, who was the executive producer of that. He and I were so close that I think he thought of me first and said, he called me and he said, I'm going to give you, do you want to do this? And I said, yes. And he said, I'm going to give you first pick of songs. And I said, Desperado. And it was that fast. And there was no question. And I had sung that song in the bars, for years. But it's just a really great song. And they have a lot of them. But that one, I think, transcends rock and roll and country,
absolutely,
popular music. It's and what it says sort of informed me as a man as to what I wanted to find in a partner, not the Queen of Diamonds, but the Queen of Hearts, and because I sang it so many times and just studied the lyrics, I think it really informed me and my search for my soulmate.
Yeah. So in studio with Clint Black, we're Honky Tonkin. Tour stuff. What's happening with you now? You got a package out working. How many shows you doing this year?
We'll get in at least 70 cities.
Good.
So we're in about a 3-week break, but we'll be back out, and then we're going to be announcing some more mostly hits in the Misses dates coming up. So Lisa and our daughter Lily will be back out with us, and we're, I think, playing better than ever, going into a production reprogramming of lights, just making the show better, doing that this week. So still out there playing and still trying to do our best show.
Still trying to find that perfect show?
Yeah,
Every
not
night.
the perfect one, if it's perfect, we tried too hard. But excellent.
Are you, so it's just the family thing. You're not doing a package, not any young opening actor, any of that stuff right now?
No. I am going to be. I always do evening withs, or I'll be on a festival show. But one of these artists that we've talked about, Cody Jinks, who has just been after me to do some shows with him for a while. It's been bouncing around, and I'm so used to I do my own thing that it was hard. It was a hard sell, but they finally convinced me to come do some shows with him. So I'm going to be special guest, or very, very special guest, as he puts it, on his show, which is it's thrilling. It's fun. I'm excited about it. It's going to be an odd place for me to be as a special guest on someone else's tour.
Wow, that's really different.
But we're going to be playing some big venues together, and we'll probably do some jams together, which is unusual for me, being a loner out there,
Yeah.
you know. So he'll come sing with me, I'll go sing with him, and we're going to try to make it as much fun as we can, you know, for someone like him who came up on my music, and someone like me who loves his music. He's real country.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be maybe 5, maybe 7 shows with him this year. And it'll be a kind of a nice little testing ground for me, because I've been asked to be special guests on other people's shows, but I never did it because I just, you know, I want to play almost 2 hours, sometimes more.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't do that when you're the guest on someone else's show.
You just feel like you're getting warmed up, and then you got to stop.
Yeah.
Do you do much European stuff? You go overseas at all?
Not at all.
Really?
No, I've got an offer to go over to Norway. And I said, okay, here's the deal. Take a couple of years, this is to my agent and manager, take a couple of years, 3 if you need it, and line up several shows, so we're not just going over there for 2 or 3, because you really want to settle in. You know, I've been over to Europe a few times, and, jumping over there to do a show is torture.
Yeah, and it's hard. You miss so much. You have to sacrifice so much, and the jet lag freaking kills me coming back.
Yeah.
I don't tour it a lot, but I like to travel. We're going to go over and do some stuff in Switzerland this year. But you know, guys like the Bellamy brothers, I'm doing a thing with them. They really put a lot of time into it. A lot of those guys go over there and work extensively over there.
Yeah.
But touring, it's not the same. You can't get on your bus like
No.
you do over here. It's a little bit different.
I think it's getting a little better, and because of the channel now, you can get buses from Europe over to England. You can get on a bus in England and take it through the channel. So you don't have to fly the whole time, but the buses are different.
I like the bus.
Yeah.
Tracy likes his bus.
I like my bus.
Yep.
We are very spoiled.
It's kind of like Hank Williams Sr. probably. I like my Cadillac. You imagine touring in a Cadillac?
No. I mean, I've gone over to. I'm sure you've walked in Ernest Tubbs' bus over there. I mean, the ceiling's about this tall.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it's just a little
Tiny.
bit. And that was first class. I mean, that was stepping up from the station wagon with the upright bass strapped on the top of it. We've come a long way. That Ken Burns documentary was one of my favorite things. I bought a copy of it because I love the history of it. Just watching that whole thing. I mean, I really appreciated going back and seeing the culture of all of it. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's it's such a unique history.
It's very American. It's all ours.
Yeah, and people all over the world that like their country music, and you got rock stars who love their country music.
Oh yeah.
And it's because it's really pure and it's really lyrical. Again, I'd say the most important thing about country music is the lyric.
Always. Taking you back a little ways in the studio with Clint Black. Man, it's been such a pleasure having you here. I don't really know what else to talk about, man. We've covered just so much history over the years, and our paths have kind of run a little bit parallel because we've had some of the same mentors and influences along the way. But your career has been phenomenal, man. It's been amazing to watch the journey. How's your transition? I know you lived in L.A. for a long time, and you're back in Nashville area now, aren't you?
Yeah.
Tough transition on the
Well,
family?
we've been here. We've always had a foot in both places, but we've been here full time for 20 years now, so we don't know any better. We still, had family in L.A. for a long time, so we'd go back there, and we still go back there for work.
Have you had a chance to go down on Lower Broad late at night and see how different things are downtown?
Yes.
Yeah, it's pretty insane.
Yeah. Well, it went from nothing going on to lots going on, and then crazy going on.
Crazy going on, for sure.
Terry Clark was talking about when she came down there, when she first got to Nashville, and the people in the bars told her mom, you don't want her playing here at night. So back then it was really,
Oh, yes, it was.
really nuts.
The Printer's Alley was worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was talking to somebody that lives down in the Gulch the other day, and they were like, we got to get out of here. Between the pedal carts and the open top redneck buses, it's
girls.
all freaking night long. He said,
Yeah,
even
circus.
if it's all up in the condos and stuff, the noise is constant, especially when it warms up and the pools open up. It's got to be pretty chaotic living downtown.
Yeah,
if I was 20, in my 20s again, it'd be different.
Yeah, I'm looking at where we are now and thinking we should have moved farther out. I wish I were farther out of town, and I'm out of town. I'm not in Nashville proper. And I thought of when we moved there, I thought, we're out in the country now. The city has moved out to the country,
and it's just spreading further and further.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, about 9:30, I'm ready to go to bed unless I'm on the road. I'm not. No, I don't like to go down. They scare me.
Well, that's weird. Does the musicians union know this about you?
Well, it's probably it makes me an anomaly. That's for sure.
Yeah, I'm up till 3. All those years in the bars and I can turn my clock back and get up early and do that for a while, but I can trip and stub my toe and I'm back to going to bed at 3 a.m.,
like I
4
told you
a.m.
early, where I realized as soon as I started telling my wife she was right about everything, my whole life got a lot easier.
Yeah.
She gets up early, so she doesn't give me a lot of slack on all that
No.
stuff.
All right, I'm going to ask you about music because Nothing But the Taillights, is that the first time you really sat down and wrote a bunch of songs not with Hayden Nicholas? Because we mentioned his name about 25 times earlier in the show. And I feel like on your first 5 albums, y'all co-wrote or you wrote by yourself almost all the songs.
Yeah, I was already writing with other people. I think about the 5th album, One Emotion. I wrote with Michael McDonald.
You wrote with Merle.
Yeah, and Earl. And so I think when I got to that album, Hayden and I had still written a bunch of songs for it, but I always wanted to write. Make sure you write by yourself, so you don't forget how, and keep that discipline alive. And then I, kept running into guys and that I was a fan of, like Steve Warner and Costas, and Skip and we'd always say that we need to write. Yeah, we need to write together, and we'd say that and run into each other. Oh man, we need to write together, and then finally I just was determined I'm going to do that, and it'll just put me in a different place and get something different going, coming out of me, and so.
So is that how you wrote Nothing But the Taillights with Steve Warner?
Yeah, went over to Steve's. It was in the evening. He had the idea, put on a pot of coffee, and got that one done. And I think we may have started a second one, You Know It All, that night. I can't remember. But yeah, it was. And Steve and I have written a bunch together. The great thing about Steve is he doesn't have any talent, but he'll stay out of my way and let me get all the work done.
That was a joke in case y'all didn't
gosh.
get it. here's
Steve-
Clint Black, and Steve Warner wrote this with him. It's Nothing But the Taillights.
Clint Black, Nothing But the Taillights. So this is the duet you did with your wife, right?
Yeah.
Did you write this too? Did y'all write it together?
No, I wrote it, and I was writing it in the kitchen as she was making hot water soup, and she can heat up anything. I'm writing it around the kitchen. I'm working on Delectrified, and 2 things for that album: no electric instruments, but I wanted to fool the ear, so that's why it's called Delectrified. You can't tell there are no electric instruments, I don't think. And the other part of it was influences. So I wanted to have guests on the album who had influenced me. like Edgar Winter and Bruce Hornsby and Eric Idle. Kevin Nealon played banjo on there.
Wow.
And I did some covers, Marshall Tucker and Monty Python and Waylon, and did a Leon Russell song. And so Kenny Loggins sang on there. Marty Stewart played mandolin on one, and Steve sang one on there with me. So I had all these guests and influences, and it hit me that, Lisa is now the biggest influence in my life. So, she should be on there. Great singer. And so I just started writing this song, but I didn't tell her. And I would sing songs around the kitchen and make her join in and sing some harmonies and enjoy that. And so I just started teaching her the song and getting her to sing with me, and kind of got into the right key, and now it's finished after 2 days, and she knows the song. Now I sprang it on her that I wrote it for us, and she resisted. I talked her into it. She'd talk herself out of it, back and forth, until 4 days before I had to deliver the album, and I finally just guilted her into it and, said, you have to do it, or else we're going to regret it one day. So she did. And then, we have to do the Tonight Show because it's the single. I'm not doing the Tonight Show, and I'm not doing a video, and I'm not going on stage in front of 20,000 people. And when she went on stage in Dallas in front of 20,000 people and they roared when she walked out, she suddenly felt this warm welcome. And I haven't been able to get her off the stage since.
Here's Clint Black and Lisa Hartman. Clint Black in the studio with us. Man, it has been an absolute pleasure visiting
Mine too,
with you today.
thanks.
Thank you so much. Look forward to doing this again somewhere down the road, and I wish you safe travels and
Thanks.
many, many more hits and that perfect musical masterpiece that you search for.
Thanks.
I'm sure you're going to
It's
find
there.
it.
It's there.
It's there. It's always there. But I have so much respect for you, and
Thanks.
thank you for inspiring me as a young kid. And helping
Thanks.
me get
I'm going to
because
take
you were
half the
part of it.
credit for you now.
It's all your fault. All the crap is all your fault.
Thanks.
Clint Black. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.